Well, welcome everybody to the very first White Home on Wheels podcast. We're just going to kind of wing it, sort of, because we've never done this before. But we are Tyler and Madison White. We come from Nashville, Tennessee, and we're just going to tell our story about how we got started and hope this story inspires you or I don't know, helps you and gives you some kind of value if you are also interested or sharing the dream or chasing this dream.
I think just what would be fitting for our very first podcast is to share our story and how we got to where we are today. I feel like that's probably the most common question that we get. And then after today, we'll have, we'll answer a lot more of y'all's questions that you have requested on our social media, but today
yeah, we got a lot of questions.
We did. So I'm excited to go over all of those, but I know that the top question is definitely how we got started. So
yeah. And by the way, we're probably going to be posting our first and second podcast probably at the same time. So if you enjoyed listening to this one, just go to the next one right after this and listen to that one. That one will be starting with the questions that we received on Instagram. So all right, well, let's start from the very beginning. Well, I was born in 1991. No, I'm kidding.
Well, we are actually celebrating our 5-year wedding anniversary this coming Friday.
This Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
Today's Saturday, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on Friday, we'll be celebrating 5 years, and the reason why we'll start then is because back then we had no idea that we were going to be traveling to this kind of capacity. I mean, if you are really just traveling at all, I never would have dreamt that that would be our story. Because I was always interested in van life, and that's actually one of our very first conversations back in 2017 when we first met.
Because when I sent you that message, you posted a story on your Instagram, and it was like a map or something like that?
It was from Road Trippers. I was planning a route with my best friend across the U.S.
That's right, yeah, because it was like this route, and I was like, where are you going? And you were like, I'm going to go with my friend Danny, and I was like, Danny's a girl?
And I corrected him really quick because I wanted him to know that Danny was not a boy.
Yeah, it was your friend at the time, yeah, because Danny, I've heard two, girl and boy names, but yeah, that was literally our first conversation. Then our second conversation ever was about video, I believe. So
about videography, because I was really interested into filming weddings.
Yep.
And you were really into just creating and documenting a little bit of everything. So we got married the next year after us meeting, and I've always been one to save my money, and so he had to get on board with that pretty quick if we were going to be together.
I didn't have a lot of money, but I didn't have any debt, so that was kind of like, you're marrying somebody with like a clean slate. You
had a little bit of debt, and I was you're not proposing until you get rid of it.
From my 1 year of college, I had like $1,000 left in my loan or whatever, but I paid that off right before we got married. But yeah, we got married, and then, we both got full-time jobs basically right then. Well, you finished college, and then you got a job in Franklin, Tennessee. Then, and that's where my job was too. I'd been there for over a year at that time. So then we moved to Franklin, and we both we got a duplex. Somehow we got a 3-car garage, like 2-bedroom duplex for less than an apartment.
Well, it was $1,400, but back in 2019, that was a pretty good steal.
Yeah, that was a steal for Franklin, Tennessee. That was a steal, and we had our own yard, and we had this gigantic parking lot, and that's pretty key to the whole story.
Mm-hmm. It was like God really orchestrated it all for us from the very beginning, from me getting a job in Franklin, which is where Tyler was working, and then we found a house that we could rent for pretty cheap with a yard, with a huge driveway. It was like teeing us up perfectly for this journey.
Yeah.
But going back to like finances and everything of like us saving money, I got a full-time job, he had a full-time job, and we were not making a lot of money separately, but together it was a decent income, especially being 22 and 26 years old.
Yeah, we're like lower middle class, I think.
Yeah.
In Franklin, probably not.
But we
like,
had no debt. Our cars were
Yeah.
paid off, which I know that we were.
we didn't have a trust fund.
No.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, despite the popular
Yeah,
belief
despite
about
all the-
RV lifers.
Yeah, all the messages. Yeah. Yeah, we had a great life in Franklin, and we were doing well. And our goal, though, we were just saving money like crazy. And our goal was like we wanted to put, whatever 20% down on a house. That was our goal. So
Well, I
that's
used
what
to
we
work
chased
for
after.
Dave Ramsey, so
Yeah, so we were following his.
being from the South, Dave
Baby
Ramsey
steps.
is hammered in your head. Like you
Yeah.
put 20% down on a house, especially when you work for him, you just kind of felt like that was
Yeah.
you had to do that. And so we were just chunking money away. We said no to things all the time. We never went out to eat.
Probably maybe once a month we would go out to eat. Sometimes not even that.
We had a
Which
fun,
isn't obviously that doesn't make you wealthy, but
well, we had a fun money budget. We had
Yeah.
$50 a
budgeted.
month that we could spend. I had $50 a month that I could spend on myself. You had $50 a month you could spend on yourself.
Yeah.
And then $50 a month for us to go out to eat.
yeah.
That was our budget.
And a lot of times we wouldn't even use it.
Yeah. And if we did, it was like going out to eat at a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
It wasn't even.
But that was the biggest thing for us was budgeting, because we literally knew exactly where every single dollar went. And, obviously the faster way to make money is to find a job with more money, but budgeting is a very useful tool, and that's how we got to where we were, even today. So yeah, we budgeted and we saved for over 2 years straight. And
I think that two things that helped us the most when it came to budgeting is, one, we had a big giant chalkboard that
oh right, yeah,
we had our monthly goals of how much what we wanted our savings account to look like in January all the way through the rest of the year. So we had a visual goal every time I can't remember where we had it. I think we just had it in our second bedroom.
I think so. It wasn't really up anywhere. It was just kind of on the ground. Because we didn't want our friends to walk in and be like, "What?"
Yeah, because
you guys have crazy goals.
But it started out as an emergency fund, and then it just became something that we just kept on chunking money towards a house.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that we had a visual goal.
Yes.
And we would take turns every single month going over to the chalkboard and checking off January, we had our goal. Checking off February, we had our goal. But then the second thing that helped was we had monthly meetings. I don't know if you remember this or not.
Yeah, we did. We would sit down at the table at least once a month, and we would talk about our budget, if it changed, how much money we had, if we had gone over budget, if we'd gone under, if we had saved a bit more. So that was pretty good. It wasn't I don't know. It wasn't like us coming together and being getting each other in trouble, but it was just getting a sense of what we had for that month, what had happened.
If there was birthdays.
Yeah, what's coming up.
What's coming up, the holidays,
So-
obviously budget fluctuates and everything, but
Yeah.
us talking about it. And then sometimes we had income changes, so if we got extra money coming in, it was do we change our fund money?
If we got a raise or something.
Yeah, so there was a time where we did raise some stuff like that, where we had a little bit more flexibility in that.
And by the way, my job, this will be key later too. My job at the time in Franklin, I was working for an LED video wall company, and if you have seen that giant sphere in Las Vegas, that's the type of product that we created. It wasn't that one, but it was that type. There's definitely some in Vegas that we had, but I started out as a cable maker. I would make Ethernet cables because I knew how to do that from high school. And I worked my way up into the service department, became the service manager, and then I became tech support. So I would answer the phone calls and walk people through software over the phone on the computer, and I would do remote stuff connect to their computer over the internet. So I worked my way up in the company, and it was kind of it was a low level job, but it was a good paying job. Honest work, very middle class, I think. But yeah, so we did that for 2 Was it 2.5 years or 2 years? I think 2 years.
Well, all of 2019 and all of 2020 and half of 21, we both had full-time jobs
Yeah.
and we were chunking money. But then February of, well, hold on. There was one thing that I wanted to say about, like, when it came to budget, what we did.
Oh, okay.
Is we use the app Every Dollar, or I use the app Every Dollar, which is a Dave Ramsey app, but that is something I definitely stand by, is using that app, because you want to know where every single dollar is going. And you can go in and you can, the paid version, which is what I had, you can connect it to your bank account. So you know exactly where you can put, like, okay, that was gas, I can put it under that budget. And that helped us know where every single dollar was going.
Yeah.
But then going into, so we saved money. That's how we got to where we were when it came to, like, being financially safe and stable, where I felt pretty good. But then I remember coming home in February of 2020. So before the world shut down, I remember just being miserable at my job, being so unhappy, and being like, we should just quit our jobs and we should just sell everything and live in an RV. And Tyler was like, oh, really? Like, and he started doing research, and it freaked me out. And I was like, wait a second. Like, I was just kind of like half joking.
Yeah, I started right off the bat. I was like, okay, how much would an RV cost? How could we get free electricity from solar? How much does that cost? And I started talking about it. I got really excited about it because I had lived in a camper before on the road with my dad for a short time, so I kind of already knew the realities. But yeah, so then she got scared and was like, maybe not, and we kind of dropped it for a few months.
Well, then COVID hit and everything
Yeah.
felt pretty unsafe, but it just made me hate my job even more. And then what happened next? Then we went.
I think, well, I came across the Instagram account Slow Car Fast Home, and I think I started sending you videos of the places that they would go with their,
Yeah, every now and then you would send me some stuff,
with
and
their
every now and
RV.
then you would also send me some campers or like some Toyotas, because we were
Yeah.
specifically looking at Toyotas.
Because they had a 90, I think it's 1991 Toyota
Odyssey.
Odyssey, yeah, one of the Toyota campers. They don't make them anymore, so they were made between the 70s and like the mid 90s, I think. 94, I think, is when they stopped making them. But so I was always like, man, this thing is so small. It's like 20 foot. They've got a bed over the top. So, we weren't interested in the vans that much because I did not want to make my bed every time I wanted to go to sleep. So I was thinking Class C, but I didn't want a giant one. So,
But
yeah,
I wanted the big window they had in the back. Like, that was
Yes.
something that I was like,
we love the big window.
if you don't know what we're talking about, definitely need to check them out. And, like, you'll have to scroll down because now they are living in a Airstream.
Yeah.
But
Renovating a boat right now, I think.
yeah, but they used to have a Toyota that had a giant window, so that's kind of like what made me fall in love with it. But I was way too scared. I loved my stability, even though I hated my job. It was like I loved those paychecks we were having. Like, living on the road, I was like, there's no way. But then we went on vacation in August of 2020, and I just remember us laying
Is
in
that
bed.
our road trip?
No, 2020.
Oh, to Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, that's right.
We went on we went to Mexico, and I remember us laying in bed in Cancun. I just remember all of a sudden we just were like, you know what? Let's do it. I don't
Yeah.
even remember what led us up to that conversation. I think just little,
I
it
don't
was like
either.
little bits of conversations every now and then that led us to let's just do it.
Well, I remember we were on vacation, so we just had this break. We had gone through so many things that year, just like everybody else. And we had this time to really think, and which can be both a wonderful and also a dangerous thing when you have time to think. But we really just evaluated everything, and it was on the beach, I think, when we were like, let's do it. So I think, because I remember on the beach, I started doing more research. I was on my phone on the beach, just sitting there.
We were in the hotel room when we said, let's actually do it.
Okay, yeah.
But we
So-
had conversations about it the entire vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And then once we got back home from vacation, like, we hadn't told anybody any of these conversations because
Yep.
friends and family, like, we just knew no one was going to support this.
Oh yeah, because in their eyes, well, in everybody's eyes, like, we kind of had it made. You know, we had the jobs and we were on our way, and I mean, things would look a lot different today if we hadn't have taken this path. But we just really wanted to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we came back, and was it immediately started looking?
We immediately started looking, and then
Yeah,
because we got back home like the last week of August, and then we picked up the Toyota in, I think, September like 12th or 13th. So
Okay.
I remember you found one, and it had the back window. It was a Toyota,
yeah,
and that it was a 1984 Toyota Dolphin, but it was like $9,500.
yeah.
I think he had it originally listed for like 11,000, and he had it marked down to 9,000. And I was like, Tyler,
Yeah.
I was like, I just don't know. Like, that's a lot of money, especially on 1984, and it was
I
across
know,
the
yeah.
country.
Yeah, so it was in Jackson, Wyoming, and so I called the guy up, and I was like, I was asking him questions about it because I knew a lot about campers, and I had, the right questions to ask him, and so I was talking to him, and by the end of it, I asked him if he would take 7,500,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and he was like immediately like, yeah, he said, oh, also for 7,500, and so we sent him 1,000, I think, to put down for him to hold it, and then we booked flights to go out there 2 weeks after that, and we even got a ticket for Ollie, so Ollie flew with us too. So we flew out there and landed in Jackson, Wyoming, and that's one of the most beautiful landings in an airplane window that you can ever see in your life.
Which
I
we
mean,
kind of felt
wow.
like that was, it was orchestrated that way because, like, we felt like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
When we saw that it was a Toyota with the back window that we wanted, and it was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is one of our favorite places in the U.S.
That would have been our second time there.
Yeah, because for our 1 year wedding anniversary, just to kind of back up the year before, that's how we did a cross country road trip, which we can do a podcast separately on how crazy that was.
Yeah, that was.
But we
nuts.
started out that cross country road trip in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we completely fell in love with it because we didn't even know. I didn't know Jackson Hole, Wyoming existed until we flew in back in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we found out that this Toyota was in Jackson Hole in 2020 when we went to go get it, we were like, oh, we could go back to Jackson Hole.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's
we
meant
were
to be.
like, if this doesn't work out, then at least we'll have this cool, like, 2.5 day weekend
Yeah.
in Jackson. Because we did take off, I believe, Monday.
We took off work. I don't know.
We took off
what days
work. It was like 1 day. So we flew out there for the weekend. But yeah, so we landed, and
But this was a one-way ticket, by the way.
it
so
was
we,
one way. Yeah,
we
that's
took
true.
a big risk.
We did take a risk.
I don't know what we would have done if the Toyota didn't work out.
Oh, I know. But yeah, we met them, and they were really nice people.
As a young couple.
Yeah, they were probably our age, maybe a bit younger. But yeah, it worked out. We obviously got it. And it was one of those things where I think I liked it more than you at first because it is old. It was a 30-year-old RV.
I also don't have
And
vision, so.
You don't have vision, yeah. So this thing was 20 feet long. I could not stand up all the way in it. It was like 5'10", I think, from floor to ceiling. So I couldn't stand up all the way. I'm 6'1", which wasn't a big deal because it's like I'm not gonna be standing up in this thing very often. So, and this thing was also, it was a 4-speed, and it was 4-cylinder, so it was a very small motor, very underpowered technically. And it had a bent axle or a bent drive shaft, come to find out. So when we would drive above 60 miles an hour, it would start to vibrate. And we were like, what in the world is that? So we drove, we took off from Jackson. Well, let me back up. Once we bought it, we gave them the cash, signed the title. We drove straight to Wendy's in Jackson, backed up to the river, and had lunch at like 3 o'clock. And we were calling our parents and showing them everything, and I'm sure they were like, "Oh my gosh, you guys bought this thing." But we took off. Actually, we stayed the night in Jackson, somewhere.
But
I
we
think
didn't know about.
near the ball field.
We didn't know
We didn't know much about boondocking at
But
that
yeah,
point.
we didn't know anything about where to stay. I remember that actually being kind of stressful because we were like,
Yeah.
where do we stay for the night? And I was like, well, why don't we stay near the national park sign? But I remember you being pretty like nervous about
Yeah,
where
I
to
just
park.
didn't know. I was like, can you just like pull up into this land
Yeah,
and
we didn't-
park? Like, who owns it?
Social
And-
media isn't like how it, like social media
Yeah.
back then was very different. Even though that was only 3 years ago, like trying to find information like that was actually
Yeah.
really difficult. So we just ended up parking downtown and
Next to the ball field, I think. The baseball field. Or one of the parks, I believe.
yeah.
So, yeah, we stayed the night and made our bed in the back and everything. And next morning, we took off. And we had bought, like, some small groceries, like a jug of coffee and some breakfast stuff. And we took off and started driving across Wyoming, and I don't remember exactly where we stopped along the way, but it was like a 3-day trip. We ended up stopping in like just south of Omaha at a Walmart. We woke up the next morning with like a flat tire, and that really sucked because I couldn't get the tire off because there was some reason why I couldn't. I don't know why. But luckily we were in a Walmart parking lot. And we drove it around, and they patched it, and we just kept going. But yeah, so we got home finally after, I think it was the 4th day we came back. We literally woke up really early from Kentucky, drove home, got in our cars, went to work. And we were just exhausted.
We went to work the same day. Like we dropped the RV off
Yes.
at
Oh,
our
man.
duplex at like I think we got there at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then
We went to
yeah, we got dressed, went to work.
Yeah, and then so from there we started planning the renovation process because we wanted to redo. Luckily, it was like halfway renovated. Like the floor had been redone, and a lot of other things. But we we tore that thing apart.
We
tore
still gutted it.
Yeah, we gutted it. I tore the ceiling out, put this nice little wood ceiling up top, and I installed our 400 watts of solar so we have electricity, and I think I put a extra water tank in there, which probably wasn't good for weight, but we had 32 gallons of water in that little thing. And we had a shower, and we had a hot water heater, and the oven kind of worked, or it didn't, I don't know, but the stovetop did. So we had everything in there, and it worked. So winter goes by, and we're just saving money, and we're working on this thing like every weekend. And so summer comes, or spring comes around.
Well, back up.
Let me back up.
Because all this time we've been renovating.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been filming this entire process.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we can talk about, so our start with social media, or your start, I guess. So I remember in January, at that point, you hadn't quit your job yet. Is that right?
Well, no. The timeline was we got the RV in September.
Yep.
I quit my job at Ramsey in October because I knew for a fact they were not going to let me work remotely.
Right.
And so I wanted to find a job where I could work remotely. So then I went to that other job because I
That's
thought
right,
that there
yeah.
was a chance that they would let me work remotely, and that didn't work out anyways.
Yeah.
So I just switched jobs at that time, but this was still a secret. No one knew about the RV except for really close friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still filming everything because I knew I wanted to start a TikTok
Yep.
eventually, once I was a little bit less scared to let people know. But then in January, I was like, should I just go on and start a TikTok? Because TikTok is a little bit more of like...
Back then, you could hide behind an account,
Yeah.
and not everybody was on
Our
it.
names weren't on it.
Right.
So we were like, well, White Home on Wheels, like, unless that was just part of
Yeah.
someone we knew, like their algorithm, they probably weren't going to find out that we had this RV that we were renovating. Plus, I was still strategic of not letting people know we planned on hitting the road that year and quitting our jobs.
Yep.
So anyways, yeah, so social media started in January. And that's when, like, throughout the entire renovation process, I was posting only on TikTok. And then our goal was to leave right after our lease was up in June in
Yep.
Franklin. But then we found out my sister was pregnant, so we knew we were going to have to delay our timeline a little. So June comes around, we are packing up to leave Franklin, and then move in with my parents temporarily. I had just quit my job. So I was jobless that entire summer for the very first time. I didn't know what we were going to do financially.
I told you to quit too. I was like, you just need to quit and just do the social media thing. 100%.
He wanted me to go all in.
And I don't think you had even started really. I mean, you had started your TikTok, but I was like, you need to just do this.
I think I had gotten us 10,000 followers or something on TikTok.
So it was one of those things where I was like, I know you have it in you. I knew you could do it. I knew you could be in this 100% and do a great job. So I was like, you focus on that, build that. I'll do something, on the side.
Mm-hmm. Which I actually was. I know you did want me to do social media, but I was actually so nervous about what we were going to do financially that I had actually been studying to do life insurance. So I got my life insurance license, and I actually got it, and I was going to sell life insurance while we were on the road. But that lasted all of 4 weeks, so.
That was basically a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that wasn't.
It was an MLM, which is basically a pyramid scheme. So.
But I still have that license, so if I ever did want to sell life insurance, I have until October of 2023 if I want to do that.
It's kind of laughable now because, why were we stressed, man? Why were we stressed?
Things just really tend to work itself out.
They really do, especially if you put in an effort, and you have to be self-aware enough to know if you're good at something or not. Because if you're not good, if you're not good at singing, you can't just push forward and expect to be this star, and blame it on the system and, whatever. You have to be self-aware enough to know that you're good at something. You don't have to be the best, but I just knew I was self-aware for you. I knew you were I knew that you were good and that we could do this together.
Which is now is so funny because you look back at those videos.
I know.
They're so cringy now. They're not good videos.
Yeah.
But practice makes perfect.
They were good for the time. But they were practice. It was a lot of practice.
I remember we were in Tennessee this whole time because that's where my family is. And then we never really get to see Tyler's family because they're in Missouri. But we went up there for the 4th of July that year. And while we were there, which family obviously knew we had this RV at this point, obviously. And everybody was so concerned that we did not have AC.
Oh my gosh, it was
It was the talk.
You would have thought that our RV had a bomb underneath it that was going to blow up. It was what are you going to do about AC? And your grandma was like, I'm thinking about buying you an air conditioning.
Literally everyone was so concerned.
Yeah, and it was this terrible thing. And I wasn't worried about it because I don't think anybody, they had never really truly been out west. So, or really in the mountains like that. And they didn't really understand 70 degrees in low humidity is way different than 70 degrees in high humidity in the South or the Midwest.
Oh, yeah. The South during the summer is very different than out west.
Because it can be 70 but feels like 90, And then out west, it can be 70 and feels like less than that in the shade. So I wasn't too worried about it. But, yeah, anyway.
But then I remember we were actually in the basement. That's where we sleep at your parents' house. That's where the guest room is in the basement. So we were laying in bed, and I remember doing research of trying to find. We were both trying to find an AC unit that what in the world could we put in the Toyota that would be feasible with electricity since we were going to be boondocking.
Run it. I was thinking about getting a 500-watt AC unit
to put in the window, and it was but we didn't want to sacrifice a window,
and that would have taken a lot of battery to run, and it just wasn't going to work. It
was a mess. So somehow I don't even remember how we came across it.
I came across, I think it was a YouTube video of this portable air conditioner, and it's a true air conditioner. It's not like you put ice in it and it blows swampy, water. Or humid water at you or whatever.
Like it uses Freon.
Yeah, it actually is an air conditioner. It has a compressor and everything. But it's this portable. You pick it up, it has a handle, and it's probably 12 or 14 pounds. and it does have a battery that attaches on the bottom, and there's different settings, and it's pretty simple. And I was like, well, this thing's like half of what a window unit uses, so maybe this would work.
But it was also $1,200.
But it was a lot of money.
$1,200 or $1,400,
Yeah.
something like that. And I was like,
Without the battery.
yeah, you have to buy the battery
was
separately.
yeah.
So I just was like, what if I just call Taylor up? You probably don't even get that reference.
I have no idea.
What if I
What does
just...
that mean? I was like, who's Taylor? What does that mean?
It's just a trend.
Okay.
Uh,
Anyway.
you need to get with the program, Tyler.
I haven't been on TikTok in a while, so I don't know what's going on in the world.
I was like, well, why don't I just email them? What's the worst they could have? I mean, they could just not respond. And I emailed them, and then I think it was the next day that I got an email back from them.
Yeah, because we were in the living room with my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got an email saying that they were going to send us this AC unit, portable AC unit, for free. They were just going to send it to us.
Yeah, and our minds were blown. We were like, we're going to get this free product.
I can still remember that feeling of like,
and at the time,
what in the world?
At the time, we had
12,000 TikTok followers.
TikTok followers.
And that's the only account we had.
We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have Instagram.
Nothing.
You hadn't even made Instagram yet.
No.
12,000 on TikTok, which back then was kind of easier to accomplish. You still have to be consistent, but that's all we had. And so we were just like, wow, this is crazy. Like, they're going to send us this product. Like, our minds were just blown.
I think I had to make like 4 videos or something in exchange or something like that.
Yeah.
But I just remember we were so excited. And I didn't even really call that a brand deal because I didn't really know what brand deals even were back then. I thought about emailing them and let them know we have a social media platform and was like, hey, y'all want to collab? I could probably find that email somewhere and see like how cringy me asking for that AC unit was. But
It's like, hi, I have TikTok. Give me AC unit.
yeah, probably. And so we got it. It worked great. That was our first brand deal. And then we hit the road in August.
And thank God we had that thing because in Kansas, we ended up
Our very
pulling
first
over
night.
the very first night on our way through Kansas to Colorado. It was 100 degrees by the time we stopped by 2 o'clock. And the cab did not have AC either, which I didn't know until we left. So I don't think it would have handled it, but yeah, we had that thing running all night, and it kept us cool enough to sleep, and it was a lifesaver for that.
Well, that kind of goes into just how we were financially when we first hit the road. So obviously I didn't have a job.
So a lot of people ask about jobs. When we first hit the road, I had talked to my boss, / owner of the company. It was a small company, probably 8 people that worked there. But I told him, we went out to lunch, and I told him what our plans were, and I was fully expecting to have to quit. I remember, I actually forgot about that. I was fully expected to have to quit.
I think you were quitting, and then...
I was like, I said, if he offers me to work remote, I'll take it, but I was like, I don't expect him to. But he offered me, he was like, you don't, he said, half of your job as tech support, you don't have to be in the office. So he said, if you want, you can keep that job as long as you have cell signal and, place to work. And I was like, sure, yeah. I said, we have electricity, we'll probably have cell service. So that's what I did and I kept that job for
another
next year. Yeah, because I didn't fully quit it until later, which we'll get into that later. But
because we hit the road in August and you quit the next September.
Yeah. And they obviously my pay dropped pretty drastically. I probably should have been paid more, honestly, as tech support.
You think so?
But it was one of those things where we were like, it's fine, like let's just go. And Because it really wasn't that busy of a job, but it was.
You were on call 24/7.
I was on call basically 24/7.
I
If
remember
we
you
were,
still took calls. It was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. You
Yeah.
still answered the phone.
I would still answer the phone because usually it was like an emergency, and the job, that job is like a lot of the companies, they did a lot of shows, so they'd be like I'd get a call and this guy, I remember this guy was like, hey man, this wall went down and like Post Malone is having a party down here and we need to get this thing up and running or something like that. It was calls like that, and I was in the middle of nowhere and I was like, all right, I guess I'll help Post Malone out, like, or whatever, it was just stuff like that. So it was stuff that they needed to be done now. So it was calls that were like high pressure a lot of
Yeah.
times, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't enjoy it after a while.
But it was paying for.
But it was paying the bills. It was paying for our gas and our food, and that was probably about it.
Yep.
Maybe just our gas.
But the great thing is because before we, like, right when we hit the road, I was stressed about, like, our income. I knew that our income was going to get slashed because obviously I quit,
Yeah.
so it was already slashed once. But then whenever your job told us how much they were going to be paying you, and I saw that first paycheck come in, and it was literally like a tenth of what you were originally getting, and I was like, oh, what are we going to do? I was sick to my stomach because I was like, what in the world? Like, how did our income go from this amount to barely covering gas and groceries?
Because all of a sudden, that safety net of what is, I mean, really, it's just a virtual safety net of a job was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And
we had our savings account, which I felt good about, but like in our minds, or maybe just my mind, like, our savings account does not exist.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to touch our savings account unless it was an emergency. So I remember that being really, really hard for me. But that something that was so great that we never could have foreseen, like, if our family didn't bother us so much about this dumb AC, we were like, oh my goodness, guys, we'll be fine. We don't need an AC. I never would have reached out to that AC unit company and
never would have thought of the possibilities that would come from that.
yeah, because that's what opened the door.
That was like, oh,
They got us to where we are.
It's like these companies, they're getting it. They're understanding that social media is a virtually like this almost free way of advertising compared to the old times where you had to pay $100,000 for a TV commercial, or whatever it is. You could pay this person who has 100 or 50,000 followers or 20 on Instagram or TikTok. You can pay them a couple $1,000s and probably get more awareness that way because nobody watches.
That's not how much we were making back then.
We weren't making that much, but that's my point,
But because they liked the videos that we posted for free, because back then
we were getting products for free.
We were getting products for free, which we
Yeah.
thought was great. And, not to knock gifting campaigns, or gifted collaborations. We don't do gifted collaborations anymore.
Right.
That's not something that I would necessarily tell any content creator to do.
Yeah, not anymore. I really think that's a great way to start out small, because it gives you experience, it gives you reality, and
it builds up that portfolio, so that way you can show brands
yeah.
like, this is what I have done.
Yeah.
Because you have to start somewhere for sure.
Oh,
and
yeah.
because they liked those videos, they were like, well, we'll pay you to make videos. And I was
Yep.
like, whoa.
And you got
Hold on.
a 3-month contract.
Yeah,
with the air
which is
conditioner.
crazy because my very first collaboration started out as gifted, and then they wanted to do a long-term campaign with us. And I just remember being like, that was such a blessing.
Yeah, product
and,
and money? Whoa.
So then they wanted us, I look back now though, it was a lot. They wanted a lot.
They did. It was a lot of, it was a lot
We
of
were
work.
basically the face of the brand. We were all over their website. We were all over their Instagram, their TikTok. We made 4 videos a month, and we gave them 8 pictures a month as well. So it was a lot of work. I mean, there's only so many videos you can make about an AC unit, but we did it. And they paid me $400 a month for all of that content for 3 months.
Yeah, and those videos did well.
Yeah, they
I
did
think
really
some
well.
of them are still some of the top videos that they have on their TikTok right now.
Yeah, it is.
There's a few others that are big too, but I think ours is the biggest ones right now.
Yeah, and that was 2
Which
years
is
ago.
crazy. Yeah. So,
But that's where we started, and so
yep.
between like my new job as a content creator, because I had started our Instagram in August of 2021, and that's back when videos weren't a thing on Instagram. So I posted a picture every single day on Instagram during our 3-month road trip that year.
Yep.
And then I was posting on TikTok almost every day, but that's where the collaboration lived only with that company was only on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So he was making his money with the tech support, and then I was doing the brand deal with them. And I was pitching back then too, but I didn't get any other brand deals. Like I tried to pitch, and there was no bites because because my email sucked, to be honest. But so I didn't really think that anything was gonna come of it. But that was enough money to really just float us. We never had to pull out of our savings account.
Yeah, we were basically we weren't really in the red. We might have been in the red like a little bit. We were just flatlining on our finances.
But we didn't care, honestly.
Yeah.
Like all that anxiety that I had about money back then, before we hit the road, like it honestly dissipated whenever we were in all of these beautiful places. And we weren't able to save money like we used to when we both worked full-time jobs, but the quality of life that we had getting to spend all day together, we were hiking, we were exploring, we were doing something almost every single day.
Yeah. And that was the payoff, really.
It was worth that exchange.
Oh, yeah. And we had it in our minds. We had to stop once in a while and go, if we're traveling and all of a sudden the RV just burns to the ground, catches fire, burns to the ground, worst thing that could happen. And I think this is a good way to think of situations that anybody's really in their life, or wanting, if you're wanting to do something, what's the worst that could happen? RV burns to the ground. We grab what we might be able to get from the ashes, book a flight home, go home, get our jobs, get different jobs.
Crash with family for
Crash
a
with
little
family
bit.
for a couple weeks, get an apartment, go back to work, we're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the comfort that we had because we did have a savings, we did have a little cushion. If we needed to use that, we could, but that was the absolute worst thing that could happen. Mm-hmm. Other than I don't know, bears attacking us or whatever, but
literally dying.
literally, yeah. Dying, I guess, is the worst part, but I felt less stressed driving where we were going than I did in Murfreesboro. Tennessee. Oh my gosh. Whew. But yeah, that's a good way to think of it. So yeah, we so let me ask you, when you send emails out to these companies, just so people get a reality of what this is, even today, when you send, I guess you could call it cold emailing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Pitching.
What's the ratio of deals that you get versus all of those non-responding or saying no?
Oh my goodness.
What's the ratio?
I don't know.
Is it 50-50?
No.
Is it 1 out of 10, 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 100?
I haven't been pitching as much as of lately because well, thank you. Because our account has grown, I have had a little bit more of brands pitching me versus me pitching them.
Yeah, that's been really nice.
Yeah, that has been really nice. So I feel like I have been able to let off the gas a little bit when it comes to that. But last year, because whenever we hit the road again, and I was pitching at least once a month. I was pitching probably twice a month, I would say. Mm-hmm. I would pitch every other Tuesday. And I probably was pitching maybe 200 brands a month. And on average, I would say I maybe had 1 or 2 brands.
Yeah.
That we actually ended up working with.
Yep. So,
what is that? That's not even 1 out of 10.
Yeah, that's one. We'll say at the most 2 out of 200.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
2 out of 2. That's what is that 1%? 2 out of 200 is 1%.
But all you need is just that one brand to say yes,
Oh, yeah.
And
If you get one a month, I mean, that's something.
yeah, because
That's
our
a way to
account had
build.
grown by the time we hit the road again
Yes, because
the
of the
next
new
spring.
renovation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So picking up the story, when we came back home, um, we went everywhere in that little Toyota. But what was funny is the first week we were out there, when we got to Colorado, we were sitting around, we were like, wonder what a 30-foot RV would be like.
It was our very first like real campsite 'cause we stayed somewhere like
Yeah.
super hot in Kansas and we like stayed out of Walmart. But our very first like beautiful campsite in Colorado, we had this beautiful campsite overlooking the
It
lake
was
and the
awesome.
mountains. We actually had to pay for it. I think it was like $11 a day.
Yeah.
But I just remember we were sitting in that beautiful spot, and that was finally when my soul was at rest. I
Yeah.
had peace.
It
And I
felt
was
good outside. It was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. And so I remember, we were talking about that. And
We came up with a list because I actually still have it in my notes on my phone.
oh, you do?
Like
of what we wanted in an RV.
we were like manifesting of like
We
this
were
is
like,
exactly what we want.
we
in our
need
next
it to
RV.
be more than 6 feet high so I can stand up.
We wanted an awning.
Yeah,
We
30
wanted a
foot.
slide out. We wanted it to be 30 foot.
Yep. A bigger shower. Because
Yeah.
that shower, the bathroom was like at the size of this table here. And that's probably
It was
2 by
tiny.
2.
Yeah. But every
yeah.
single thing we wrote down on that list of something we wanted in the future is what we have today in this RV.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to look back of like, wow, just God just really takes care of these little things that we want and that we work hard for, and if we put him first, and just to see things unfold of our dreams and the things that we've really wanted and we've chased after, and we've
Yeah.
done the work, but then just the fruition from all of that is so crazy to see and look back now.
Oh, yeah. So when we went to, we drove, we ended up in Texas in the Toyota at the end of our journey.
3 months go by.
3 months go by. We ended up in Texas on the beach, on the sand, in front of the water for 2 weeks. And I don't remember what we were, that was such a great 2 weeks. It was so peaceful and the water was great and there was nobody there. But that's when we started looking for a 30-foot RV. And we were like, let's get a Class A because we love the idea of the windows. So
Yeah, we're big windows people.
yeah.
We wanted the rear window and
we have
the
the front
Toyota.
window.
Now we have the front window.
So we
There go.
found it was a 35-foot Class A, and we were thinking, well, that might be okay because that would have been 10 foot longer than the Toyota. Actually, no, 15. Yeah, 15
It
foot
was
longer.
20 foot, and that was 35.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would have been 15 foot longer. So we found it, and it was in Ohio. Was it Columbus? I don't know.
Yeah, I was in Columbus.
Yeah. So we
And we were, in Texas.
So we left. We actually messaged them. We were like, "Hey, we're interested. We're coming back." So I think we kind of cut our
We cut our trip
trip
early.
short by a week at least, maybe 2. So we drove all the way back home to Tennessee. Said hi to your family. Next morning,
We dropped the Toyota off at my parents'
dropped the
house.
Toyota off. Next morning, got in your car, drove up to Ohio. It was a 6-hour drive, I think, and we took a look at it, and it just wasn't quite there. We liked the size. We liked the layout. It had 2 slide outs. Bedroom slid out, or the bed slid out in the back, and then the couch, in the living room. But it just wasn't quite there. There's a few things wrong with it. Like the slide wouldn't go out. The ceiling or the roof, I don't remember, something about the roof. And so we ended up saying no.
Well, the guy who was selling it had just bought it himself.
Yes, that was
So he
also
didn't even know anything about it.
He bought it. He didn't own it for more than a month because he said, "Yeah, we were going to travel with it with me and my wife and my 5
he had a
kids
lot
or
of
something like that."
kids.
And they said it wasn't big enough, so they actually had a huge one sitting out there next to it. So I was like, "Well, he doesn't really know much about it, so."
Plus, I mean, if you've ever went shopping for a house, or if you've gone shopping for an RV or camper or whatever, you just know, you have a feeling whenever
Yeah.
you walk around, you just kind of know, this isn't it, or you just feel like you're home.
Oh, yeah.
And we both
It was like within 10 seconds.
we both knew, but I was in
Yeah.
denial though, because I was like, man, we just ended
I know,
our
we ended,
epic
yeah.
RV trip.
Drove all the way up
early.
here. Yeah, early. Drove all the way up there, and we were going to have to, yeah, it was one of those things.
So we told him we
where-
were going to have to think about it. So we went to Chick-fil-A, and then I was like, well, tell me what you think. And Tyler said no.
And I was like, I don't think this is the one.
And I boo-hooed.
You busted in tears. Oh, man.
I cried in the middle of a Chick-fil-A because, like, I knew in my heart that it was a no. But I was just grieving, like, this beautiful 3 months that we had in the Toyota and that we cut our trip short. And it was like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, so, yeah. And what really was kind of, I forgot about this detail, but we ended up, you didn't
I know
want
what
to.
you're gonna say.
You didn't
I
want to, but I was like, we need to get a hotel room because I'm not driving back in the dark. And you didn't want to. You're like, I'm not spending, $70 on.
Back then, we were making enough money to justify.
I was like,
spending money
no,
at
we're
this
gonna stay the
hotel.
night. So, yeah, we got the hotel, and we got there, and I put my hand in my pocket, and I was like, oh no, I've got the keys to this thing because we test drove it. And I was like, man, I gotta go all the way back there, and it wasn't far. It was like 15 minutes, but I had to go back and like hand it to him because I had called him or texted him or something. And we said no.
Yeah.
So there was this awkward exchange of like, why'd you say no? And I was like, well, we're just not what we're looking for, and whatever. But yeah, so then we drove home the next morning, and I don't remember the timeline, but it was either that day or the next. I think it was the next morning, right? Probably
I
the
remember
next
it being
morning.
really quick because I was down
was
in the
fast.
dumps. I was like,
You were like, you had your arm up. You were like, you didn't want.
No.
Yeah. So I got on RV Trader, and I saw this 30-foot Class A Winnebago. And if you've ever been on RV Trader, it actually tells you how many people have viewed that page. And it said that I was the first viewer. Like, it doesn't say number one, it just says you're the first viewer. So I think they had just posted it. And so I sent him a message real quick. And because we were like, we had seen this layout before.
it was the first layout that we ever looked at, actually.
Yeah. Because we didn't want a big Class A. A 35 would have been pushing it. A 30-foot was perfect for us, we thought. And we loved the layout. Mm-hmm. It was perfect. I think they did a great job with that size of an RV. So sent him a message, and I was like, hey, guy, or I don't remember, hey, guys, or whatever. I think it was her. I think it was the wife that was messaging. But I said, could you, if you wouldn't mind, could you send us like a tour video, like just walking around? Because I'd really love to kind of get an idea. Because they took some decent photos, but it wasn't.
Well, they were in North Carolina,
Wasn't
so it was like,
great.
I'm not going to fly out to where
Yeah,
you are.
they were in Raleigh, North Carolina. Actually, they were an hour outside of Raleigh to the east.
So it was like 9
even
hours away,
further.
so we knew we were going to have to fly.
So they were nice, and it was funny because they filmed the video on like an old Handycam, like digital.
Because you could hear the zoom.
Whatever,
Whenever
yeah.
they would zoom into things.
It was definitely old, and it was in like standard definition. So it was one of those things where we were like, well, hopefully it's not one of those things they're trying to hide what it looks like. So we were like, hey, we'll come look at it tomorrow or maybe the next day. And we booked flights. And
I was very pessimistic.
you were yeah. So we booked flights, flew out there, got a rental because we had to drive an hour.
So all these expenses for us just to find another
Yeah.
RV was really adding up between the gas to Ohio, the hotel, driving
flight.
back to Tennessee. Then we were booking a flight to North Carolina.
We
getting
didn't bring
a rental.
Ollie this time.
No, we didn't bring Ollie.
So yeah, we drive out there, and they're in this small town, I think, out in the middle of nowhere, and we pulled up to the cul-de-sac, and we saw it, and we were like, oh, there it is. And when we saw it, we were like, that doesn't look like a 2001. Well, it does, but it looks like really like good looking.
Yeah, it looked really good on the outside.
And we pulled up, and we met them. So they unlocked it, and you walked in first. What was your first thoughts when you walked in?
I knew.
I could tell by the look on your face, like your smile. You were just like looking around. You kind of had a grin.
I remember
I was
that
like,
the old man commented about me smiling.
Yeah, you were smiling. You were like, yeah.
I was my smile was not falling off my face, and he noticed, and he was like, "Man, you've been smiling this whole time," or something like that. And I was just like, I
Yeah.
just knew that it was exactly what we were looking for, and
Yeah.
it was going to be our new home on wheels to travel all across the U.S.
Yeah, and the reason why it looked so good, he told me it had been repainted in 2015 or 16.
On the outside.
The outside. So that's why it looked so good.
The interior looked
And the interior looked really good
brand
too.
new for a 2001.
Yeah.
They they didn't garage kept it, but they stored it in like an underneath like a
Yeah.
metal frame or whatever.
Yep, so there was no like water damage. The roof was solid. I mean,
Everything was solid.
Everything was great. It definitely obviously ended up having its problems because it's, a 20-year-old RV, like the brakes.
We had issues with the brakes. We were driving from North Carolina to Tennessee, so we had to go over the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everything was like beeping because the brakes were not going out, but we had to replace the calipers right when we got back to Tennessee because
we replaced the calipers and
we had no brakes. Like it was literally metal against
yeah,
metal.
the front left brake. There was brakes on like on the rear, like they were still kind of there, but the front left was just about metal on metal.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost gone.
My dad was very concerned when he looked at the brakes when we got back because he was like, I heard you guys squeaking down the road.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But other than that, we had a lot of other like random kinks to work out. But other than that,
and that comes
great.
with buying an older RV, especially if
Yeah.
it's close to 20 years old.
Well, we had sold the Toyota right after we bought this. So that's the RV we're talking about. Obviously, the one that we bought in North Carolina is the one that we live in today.
Yeah, it's this one.
And we bought it. We brought him down. He had it for $17,500.
Yeah.
And we knocked him down to $17,000. And so we bought it for $17,000. We just took it out of our bank account. And I hated doing that.
And we hadn't
because
sold
we hadn't
the Toyota
sold a Toyota yet.
So at the time, we owned 2 RVs.
Yeah, and we were parking in my parents' driveway.
Yeah.
And my sister actually lived there. So they had my dad's car, my mom's car, my sister's car, my car, and then we had 2 RVs. No, your car was at grandma's.
My car was at your grandma's, so yeah.
So my dad joked that literally their backyard looked like a used car lot.
Used car lot with
But
RVs.
they had enough room. We could park in the back and also in the front. But anyways, it was stressful there for a little bit because we just bought this RV and it was like, I really hope we can sell this Toyota and get enough of our money's worth where it was like, okay, hopefully we should cash flow this RV basically. And we sold the Toyota for $16,000.
Yeah.
And so it basically nearly covered this cost for this RV.
Yeah, nearly. I mean, pretty close, yeah.
I mean,
Obviously,
$1,000 off, but yeah.
Obviously, the renovation, we had to put money into it. And we put solar into it and bought the flooring for the...
we literally did so much this thing.
Yeah, we did a lot
Obviously,
of stuff.
I mean, you can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can obviously tell this RV does not look like a 2001 anymore.
Yeah.
I definitely renovated it in a way.
And we've still done things to it. Like
it's a never-ending project.
It's a never-ending project,
Which that's one of the questions that we will be going over in our next podcast.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely a major question people have about buying an older rig and the consequences that come with that. But
yeah, because even in a new one, there's always going to be stuff breaking down or you got to fix. Or...
I mean, it's literally a home on wheels that's literally an earthquake. Whenever you drive down the road, like, you need to have low expectations when it comes to, like, things breaking and
oh, yeah. And that's
going wrong.
That's definitely a thing to keep in mind. And you got to be able to learn. And if you're not good at doing research on how to fix things yourself, I don't know, it may not be for you, but...
You're rolling with the punches. I mean...
Definitely helps to be somewhat handy.
At least if you're in a partnership and you're wanting to get into this lifestyle, at least have somebody in your partnership who is a go with the flow kind of person and can really hold you up during that, because I'm a lot better than I was before we like hit the road, but I used to not be a go with the flow person. I was definitely much a type A. I wanted plans. I hated when things went wrong. I hated change. But slowly, like, my mindset has changed into the person that I am today, and hopefully I continue to grow and become a better version of myself. But
Yeah.
Tyler has held me up and encouraged me, and he's been just this rock this whole time of researching, figuring things out, assuring me things are going to be okay, and it has. So without having him as, you know, the leader of our family and being able to keep everything steady, I probably wouldn't be as at peace as I am today.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen?
You can't take the compliment now, can you?
Thank you. There. You have it on record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do we want to... That might be a good stopping point, or we could finish the story. I think we're at an hour. We're at an hour here. What do you want to do?
I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up.
Yep, that's a good place to stop. We can probably finish the story. We could pick it up later when we started our journey in this RV, because that's when things really started to change for us and started to go uphill. Sorry, Ollie is barking at this dog outside. So yeah, well, this is the end of our first podcast. I don't know. Tell us what you guys think. I hope that's of some kind of value to you if you're wanting to start living this life, or if you are living this life, or just learning. Let us know what you think. We take Instagram messages, so if you have questions, send us your questions on there, and we'll definitely get to them some way or another.
Oh, jeez.
So our next one, we are going to do questions, and that's probably going to be posted with this one. So, so thanks for listening, and we hope you all have a great day, great rest of your week. Thanks.